This is lesson 1 on descriptive statistics, and we're looking at populations, samples, and types of data. Before we start, you might want some cue cards or a vocabulary sheet handy so that you can take some notes. There's a lot of new terms in this module, and having cue cards or a vocabulary sheet to practice with may help you to learn that data. So, descriptive statistics is concerned with describing data. This means that we look at how to organize and summarize information effectively in order to help understand it better. So some new terms. Population. This is the set that represents all the measurements of interest to an investigator. So for instance, if the college wanted to find out some information about ALP students, the population would be all the ALP students at all of the campuses across the province. A sample is a subset of measurements selected randomly from the population of interest. So if we randomly selected 100 ALP students from across the province, that would be a sample that might be investigated, or they might fill a questionnaire out to provide the information that the college wanted to know. So let's take a couple of look at another example. The Testing and Evaluation Division of the Department of Education reported that the average mark on the grade 12 provincial math exam was 68%. This average was obtained by randomly selecting 500 exams from throughout the province. Are we dealing with a sample or a population? So if we look at this, you can see that they randomly selected 500 exams, so this must be a sample. And so the sample is those 500 exams that they checked. Example 2. Statistics Canada had all households complete the long-form census. They reported that the average salary after tax of unattached individuals in 2009 was $31,500. Are we dealing with a sample or a population? If you look at this example, you can see that all households complete the long-form census. So we're dealing with a population, because the population, also if we describe the population, it's all households. Okay, let's move on to looking at types of data. When data is collected, the responses can be classified as a categorical data set or a numerical data set. And by showing you a couple of examples, it'll be easiest to describe what those mean. So for example, question 1, what cell phone provider do you use? And these are the answers that people gave. TELUS, Bell Alliant, TELUS, Bell Alliant, Rogers, Koodo, Rogers, TELUS, and Rogers. This is called a categorical data set. Categorical data is data that can be assigned to distinct, non-overlapping categories. The responses to question 1 fit into 4 categories: Bell Alliant, Koodo, Rogers, and TELUS. So another example might be what type of car do you drive? And you're going to get responses like a Corolla or a Volvo or a Lexus, and those are categories. So the responses then are categorical, okay? Question 2 here, what was your cell phone bill for the previous month? And the responses are all of these answers: $27.80, $33.50, etc. So this is a numerical data set. The data is comprised of numbers, and in this case, different amounts of money. So categorical gives you answers that are categories. Numerical gives you answers that are numerical. If we go back to the car question, when we asked what type of car do you drive, the answer is categorical. But if we ask how many miles or kilometers do you put on your car each year, that answer would be numerical. There are two types of numerical data, and those are discrete and continuous. So discrete data is isolated points on a number line, and it's something like that usually involves counting. For example, if people were asked how many phone calls they made today, their responses would be whole numbers like 0, 4, or 12. That's discrete data. Continuous data is the possible values form an entire interval on a number line, and it generally occurs when we take measurements. So, for instance, if we ask people their height or their weight or the time it took to do something, we can get answers that are decimal answers. And a good example here is soil samples being tested for acidity. That's done via measuring the pH. So the pH could give numbers like 4 or 4.17 or 4.173 or any other number that's in the possible interval for pH numbers. And that is the end of this lesson.